now loses game 1 in dominant fashion to Team Dignitas. Well, sets Dig up nicely, knowing that they're able to defeat CE on one of their most comfortable battlegrounds. What do CE now think that they need to do? Is it a matter of battleground choice? Are they going to go to first pick? We'll be finding out shortly.
I feel like I would like to see them go with the first pick here. I feel like it might be in the... I guess it kind of changes depending on the mentality and confidence they have after that first game, because even though it is only one game, it was, again, pretty dominant, and things might be easier to control, especially with these European teams, if you take them to different territory, things a little bit more comfortable for yourself. Normally, I would say, well, the priority onto the Dragonshire has been pretty high there, but after losing on Towers your map selection, I would not want to take it onto the only overlapping map between the two teams.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. I thought maybe that was why we didn't even see Dragonshire for the first map for them. But we also talked about how Warhead Junction was a choice for CE versus BTG. And obviously there was no way you would ever expect to be able to go to Warhead Junction versus Dig, because that is 100% their ban all of the time. Every single time.
And CE kind of got the best of both worlds, to be honest here. I feel like this map pick, it's not a misplay by any means, but to win on the map selection of CE and then commit to the first pick and then Dignitas selecting their only overlapping map now gives you debatably advantageous position into the draft on, again, a map that in a situation in this series to where you still can recover, you know, maybe get that momentum swinging into your favor. If anything, to me, that just displays absolute confidence from Team Dignitas.
There are 3 places where Team Dignitas have played Tracer tasks that are Battlefield of Eternity, Dragon, and Sky at this tournament. That Genji ban, while understandably necessary for CE.
Gotta be asking, where's the Tassadar?
Yeah.
Is it going to be in the first pick slot? Immediately, knowing that and the research here, I go with it has to be first picked. And if it is first picked, then what's the response out of Team Dignitas? Dignitas also has been trying to call out. Yeah, that's been the next go-to. A lot of teams have been wanting to kind of call out the unwillingness to ban into the second phase. I believe it was 2 days ago we saw that from Dignitas, and then still get a post-secondary ban phase on maps where you would expect it being banned out against them. We'll see, though. CE did not snap lock in the Tassadar, so I'm feeling like they're going a different avenue. If so, do they go with something like the Dahaka, consider more into their 4-man, just go with the generic Greymane in this situation?
Man, that's difficult. I know they would like to go back maybe into Shu's Vala. The Greymane could be possible too. You usually do get Greymane early or one of the globals. They played Falstad here too. They did play double support Vala Garrosh and Dahaka at the start of groups. And Garrosh is the reason they won the one game versus Dignitas, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty surprising. They go for the Greymane.
So much so that Team Dignitas was kind of joking about that. Just ban the Garrosh. It's the only way this is going to go south. There's a Greymane, and to no one's surprise, there is our Tassadar Tracer. The only difference is Dignitas picks the Tracer first, which shows how much they actually like Tracer over the Tassadar.
There he is, the legend, rocking Chromie, and now we get his Tracer. Okay, CE, you had to know it was coming. So what's the game plan versus this?
I'm trying to, think about some wild card picks maybe that they expect to have responsive. Brightwing has shown up a few times in this tournament, but only on Cursed Hollow, I believe. This is one of her, you can argue, better maps because she has that global, but it's the same way that maybe, I don't want to say like Genji. It's very different than every other global in the sense that it's only responsive when you have another hero, and it's only going to be like a counter gank situation or helping yourself with that late game. As you can see, Snitch...
he's wondering if he's going to get another Tassadar MVP.
Yeah. The Snitch there. It shows the confidence, though. The fact, wow, okay. I did not expect it before the secondary ban phase, to be honest.
Brightwing Arthas. I thought it would be like a Garrosh Brightwing, maybe?
Garrosh, I agree with you. I actually feel like Garrosh Brightwing stands out a little bit more. So I'm going to take a minute to try and find a better argument as to why you commit to the Arthas here with this Brightwing.
Well, making sure that they have the Greymane counter taken at this is flexible for the team. He could end up as that top laner, or he could end up as Wins Hero 2. But Team Dignitas now have the option of banning Garrosh, which means No throws, no force of recalls as much from Tracer.
It can really go about any point with this ban. I don't feel like there's anything that's like a must remove from them unless they have a bit more of a niche strategy that they felt like they were going to pick at this point in time, because there is really no heavy tell on how CE has to play this, but it's also the Brightwing feels like it gave them a slight advantage at this point into the draft. It's a unless, again, there's a major argument for it here, and I'm still struggling to be able to identify that here for CE. I just want to reiterate, I don't think it's the Brightwing that's surprising, it's the position at which it had happened, because I feel like if Dignitas truly had banned the Brightwing and I'm CE, I go, that was a win. I drew a resource out of their draft that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and I feel like that's greater value than likely this Brightwing will have into the game.
Maybe they thought their Garrosh would go through, although so many teams have been banning it versus them. Versus any team that has shown it. CE bans Dahaka from the top lane. And now for Team Dignitas, what's still up at this point? ETC's gone. Lucio is still up. Karazim.
Oh, I think I want to see a Karazim over a Lucio in this situation, but do you really want to give over the opportunity for a double support Lucio, Arthas, Greymane, and Brightwing? It's still pretty good for CE, though they have completely avoided it at this point in time. By no means is it out of the realm of possibilities.
I know KTY plays Brightwing for the double support setup. Not sure if Aloof plays it as much. He did play it once at this event, so it could go either way. That makes the next support really flexible for CE. They're not locked into anything specifically.
The one thing I do want to see from Dignitas is just a bit beefier of a top laner, just making sure that it's not so, you know, squishy, because that Brightwing provides those ganks up towards top a little bit better. It's really hard to be able to survive those, and you never want to be second guessing yourself on the Shrine. If you're like, oh, can I take this 1 versus 1? It's going to be a Sonya, which is a middle ground hybrid. To be honest, I don't feel like it falls as much into the tankiness in levels 1 through 9 where we know those games are going to happen, but it's not a bad pick or by any means a setback here for this draft. It just is one of those, it's a risk that Dignitas is very much aware of and going to have to play around.
It's also something that Team Dignitas have drafted a fair amount, is having both Tassadar, or Tracer, and Sonya supported by that Tassadar, leaving open the support as the final pick to figure out what they need to respond to from CE. I think it's going to be another warrior and then another support. Definitely another support.
Is there any world where we get a Zeratul? Just he's shown up quite a bit throughout this tournament.
How do you top lane?
You send the Arthas and Zeratul trying to flank around. I'm just looking for where's the Brightwing argument, and it used to be old school Zeratul into a Tassadar. You can say, well, that's difficult, but also at the professional level, generally on a map like Dragonshire, your Zeratul is almost never hidden. Zarya and a Leoric here. This is interesting. A lot of siege capability and, you know, reasonable amount of kill potential within the 4. Very little survivability when it comes to the team fight in terms of the healing output. But Arthas, Zarya, Leoric cross support, it makes it to where Brightwing is a very, very vulnerable or target within this composition. But if she manages to survive, especially post 13 when that gets easier with the ice block, this could be hard for Dignitas to deal with the sustained fight, because Task Tracer is generally...
One shot, one kill?
I think it's unfair to put it to that extreme, right? Because it definitely is not like Tronda meta one shot, one kill, but it likes to choose a fight at a very specific time, and when that happens, generally that is the power spike of that fight. And then beyond that point, it's just Tracer's a bit more of a mosquito than she is a threat.
Well, they do get Karazim as another person who can dive in and try to get to the finishing blow to the pulse bomb target for Tracer on probably that Brightwing until you get Ice Block.
The biggest thing that I appreciate out of that Karazim pick in the last slot, though he has dominated this tournament, is just into the triple warrior that we see out of them, and Brightwing does not want to go in and help support that. When 7-sided drops, it's so much threat potential onto the front line that someone is going to have to be able to back away, and it's not like you can rely on Brightwing to go, you know what, I'll just restore you back to full HP. It's changing that long sustained fight and making it that much harder purely based on the Karazim pick.
Yeah, I was looking at that and I even wondered if we would see another Haymaker busted out even as a Haymaker into a 7-sided strike. Because otherwise, if they're looking for that isolation comp, there are a triple warrior who can just walk into the 7-sided strike and all share it. But if you punch them in and then lock them down, Maybe that's the plan. We're gonna get another haymaker.
It could be the case. I like the argument behind it. You are right. Especially with the Zarya, she can very easily just drop a shield and try and join in. And you're not only are you, because of, for anybody who doesn't know, 7-sided Ghost with the highest HP first, right? You're giving both of them equal amount of damage, which is essentially doubling the amount of shielding opportunities for her.
Triple Warrior on Dragonshire. It has been a little while since we saw that, but that meta, I'm pretty sure, started in China.
It did.
We return at the end of the year after so long to Triple Warrior on Dragonshire for the Chinese team.
It does still have a lot of the same trade-offs it had back then. The difference is that there were very few other counter options within the game at that point in time to be able to punish the weak points of those compositions. That is not the case anymore. I'm not trying to say that it doesn't have a chance to hold up, but there's a reason it was the meta, and there's a reason it no longer is.
Yeah, the hope for CE is that Triple Warrior is going to help them be able to deal with the pulse bombs from Tracer. They also have the spell armor that Phase Shield or Phase Shift gives. Not Phase Shift, the Shield Dust, Pixie Dust. Good grief, there are so many shields and phases for Brightwing, but the Pixie Dust gives a spell armor that will help. That changes at level 10 for Tracer, but if they can get through the early ganks with those Triple Warriors.
There's a... Man, I'm wondering, is there a heroic adjustment that we're missing for CE? I can't think of one. I mean, by no means do I expect us to see... I can't even... Graviton Surge, right, is the other name of it? I'm sorry, I see it so rarely that I can't even recall the name off the top of my head. I don't see any argument for that. Entomb seems really unrealistic in this type of composition with the amount of mobility that we see out of Team Dignitas. Blink Heal is about as weird as I feel like it gets, and even then it's not that crazy, nor do I see a major argument for them to take it here. So we'll find out what is in store here for us for CE. This is going to be very telling if Team Dignitas is the team to be able to win again after the last game, just because this is, again, one of the only overlapping maps that both these teams have in terms of their priority and what they like to play on the most. Yeah,
I'd also say that it seems like this is sort of the end of the line for the two most favorite maps of CE.
Yeah.
So not being able to get on win on either Towers or Dragonshire, they do pick some Sky, but you have to remember that in HGC China, it's a best-of-2 format always. So in general, you play most of your games on
the same map.
The same maps, and especially for Dragonshire, this used to not be CE's favorite, but they played it so much because they play versus SPT so much, and that was their favorite, that it was a developed strategy for them to start picking that up. CE have set up with a top lane push with their Zarya, Greymane, and then the Brightwing, while having Arthas and Leoric, the solo laners, take mid and bot.
It's an interesting choice to be able to make that transfer towards the top lane rather than making it towards the bottom. Even though we have seen a large shift, I feel like, in Paradigm, a lot of damage there on the Poik, at least making them respect this top. But we have seen a bit of a shift in Paradigm in this tournament towards the emphasis of which lane and when to focus it here. But for CE, in this circumstance, to focus towards the top lane, I don't feel like actually aids them that heavily, other than Paradise post 4 has faster clear between those two lanes. But I can't help but feel like I wish that we would see this tri-lane up into bottom and stacking the pressure there, because Dignitas should be able to hold their own on top lane a little bit easier, and it won't gain them as much in the long run.
Yeah, if you have the good siege of Zarya with Feel the Heat, and they did take that, and then even the Greymane too, it is kind of curious to see that CE are not wanting to threaten in that bottom lane, but we'll see what they end up doing, if it's some sort of setup for them that they just feel more comfortable about that, or maybe even it's just the mercenary camp in the top.
Yeah, Arthas is now making the rotation here. And without the 4, I don't feel like the CE can rely on the Leorica to match the trade. Hold up there. Pulse Bomb after the Storm Bolt. Aluful keeps himself alive with a Mana Pixie Dust. But that Tacit Side Storm is going to get the kill. Poik falls low. He gets another shield, and I don't think he's got enough dashes out of here. A responsive kill here from CE.
Yeah, so good from Wind to make sure that he was sitting on the target, but he's going to have to do that again for Zaylee. He gets the Howling Blast. Shuyu gets away from the danger, but Wind might not be so lucky. Here comes Brightwing. No face shield yet. They're not level 7, but staying strong, having that Zarya shielding. Now JPL's in danger. Wind hits another money Howling Blast. But with a Dwarf Toss out, JPL survives.
That polymorph hit half a second earlier. That might have been a dead JPL. That was ridiculous. You could see the auto attack debuff there on Dzalia really come into play. Suddenly, Arthas looked like he was about to die, and then Karzim no longer had the opportunity to be able to hit his right click. We do see the Shattered Ground pickup for Wubby, and I can't help but feel like I appreciate that because we know this is going to be the 1-4 split between the Leoric, and it's one of the best ways to be able to match that. He's going to go ahead and get that spear onto a Luful to nope out of this situation. And Dignitas there, you can see them cycling this map, trying to use the Task Tracer, but because of that tri-lane onto top, it's a different opener to Dragonshire than we normally see from EU.
Yeah, they've had to make sure to keep up with CE where they were wanting to threaten. You always have to take the Zarya with Feel the Heat into consideration with where she's at. But what is pretty cool to see is that with that Shattered Ground, because Neil Peasants is that same level, the talent tier, with Leoric trying to make sure that you've got that wave clear, the extra splash damage from that. And now CE is finding some success in sieging in the bottom lane, just about to get 7. They did take out a tower.
Luful maybe for a second there thought he might be out too far, but it's only a Task Tracer and Murden cycling down. Zayli is too busy stuck with those minions. And the lack of wave clear here for Dignitas for the first time is being quite heavily punished on Dragonshire. Normally, they're getting so much value out of Poik in the threat kill potential between the 4 or towards that top lane that nothing happens, but CE is so fluid with their laning transitions that Dignitas has to respond to them, and anytime you do that and you don't have the wave clear, that means you're falling behind. I cannot say how happy I am to see this here for CE. With how much kill potential has been put into Dragonshire and so rigid of laning thought process, they're the first one to go, what if we just didn't?
Yeah, you guys can't see Dread behind the scenes, but he has been pretty vocal about the confusion with how much or how little wave clear, it seems, has been a focus for a lot of teams on Dragonshire. Just double reset comps, kill comps all day. The Tracer, Tassadar does help out with the Tracer comps, but CE with so much wave clear and siege are making it work here.
Don't get me wrong, I understand some of the thought process into why we see the kill potential, but it's to the point where nobody's trying to punish it, right? That's the big question mark. And CE,
yeah,
they're putting on a clinic right now. Just do not match the traditional laning you would expect. And to be honest, I feel like it is only fitting that we see this come out of the Chinese region, because they really have been, even though, you know, maybe people at home who don't watch the region realize some of the most innovative in laning situations out of anyone. Since I started playing, I took heavy notes out of their rotations and macro, because if you didn't do so early on, especially these micro rotations on maps like Dragonshire, you will fall very far behind very quickly.
Not just laning situations, their hero choices, their talent choices,
everything.
The Chinese meta. When we've talked to teams before, they have said they feel like to make sure that they're staying ahead of the game and can even contest teams internationally, it's doing so by making sure that they're checking out and see if there are any innovative strategies that they can play, and that goes into so many different levels for them, and it's one big reason why CE have found success in their region. I feel like they are one of the most flexible in the hero pools, and even why they're doing well here. Look at this, about to get heroic abilities a little bit ahead of Team Dignitas.
I feel like for the strength of the region, a lot of people just don't realize how big of an impact they've actually had on competitive Heroes of the Storm. It is insane. Though Korea has been the one dominating the top of the ladder for a lot of it, they haven't been the ones teaching us how, right? They've been just teaching you how to win and just be better than every single person. Not trying to say they haven't innovated, but it is amazing what we've seen out of China. Force Wall, Pulse Bomb used on the win is he's going to be caught out. But the Zarya shield is enough, and because Dignitas is constantly trying to catch up on these lanes, CE is just... this is astounding what they're able to make happen here. I don't know where the breaking point is to dig unless they catch somebody out like this, like overextending up on a siege.
That was the Quantum Spike too with the heroic abilities, and Wind was just fine, totally fine from that. Aloof is going to use the Peekaboo to give some vision. CE have nearly taken out this bottom fort. Once they do that, they can start to look elsewhere as more siege and things just get easier and easier for them to try to pick up a Dragon Knight and get even more from that. They'll get this in the bottom. Expulsion Zone keeps JPL separated from the rest of the team, but not everyone's here yet. Wind is cycling in, just now starting to come in, gets from the side. Poik goes back in, nearly takes out Shuyu with the Pulse Bomb, but the cross-supporting of Zarya with the Luful coming into is just barely enough to keep Shuyu alive.
Dignitas looking to get a fight back on here. Shuyu has to second-guess himself for a moment. This is one of the moments where Dignitas can capitalize on the fact that that is a solo support Brightwing. Though the composition of CE can be self-sustaining, if the damage output is onto Greymane, there is not enough to make her, you know, be able to ensure that he keeps himself alive, especially because Emerald Wind was the committed heroic choice.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about the Kharazim pickup after the fact is that as we see 7-sided strike and the pulse bomb go down on KTY, even if the pulse bomb doesn't quite finish off a target because of the shielding, they still can have a Kharazim go back in. But so far, CE is living through every single time that Dignitas gets aggressive at them.
Gilly, this game is about to get only harder here because when looking at those two targets that are going to be the ones overly susceptible outside of a heavy isolation 7-sided blow-up is Brightwing. She's rounding the 13 talents here. Dignitas generally should be so far ahead with the kill potential that it really doesn't matter, but they have not been able to open up the map whatsoever. Again, they're playing cat and mouse here with CE. And that talent here is really going to remove one of the biggest opportunities at this stage of the game for Dignitas to get the momentum they've been looking for.
Yeah, I almost wonder if we'll see Running Wild as like the disengage increased range at that 13 to kind of do the same thing so that Greymane can make it out of range or make it a far riskier choice for Kharazim to go in after the fact and get a kill, or even Tracer to dive in after him and try to get the kill. See what he chooses there. Poik going in for some more damage along with JPL. But this zoning is very good from Wind as CE are just desperately still trying to bring down that bottom fort. Dignitas have held on for a long time at this fort, but CE, they're ready to break it down.
They are zoned off, though. A little bit of a threat just with the two-man. Poik trying to get the flank. He goes in, immediately just gets the one-shot there onto Shuyu. And that is now going to set Dignitas apart here. Trying to get more out of this fight. JPL is consuming the rest of this bottom altar. The 1v1 on top is still there. And Dignitas, because they haven't opened up the map, can't get that kind of chase where normally you'd expect them to.
Yeah, with that Poison Spear, though, Leora can have a tough time with Wubby getting chunked from that. Wubby claims the shrine, and now as with Kharazim heading up, Zalia should be able to get this Dragon Knight win, doing his best to take back the Moon Shrine, but it is all for naught. Dragon Knight claimed by Team Dignitas, and now they can start putting the pressure towards CE.
And the biggest thing with Dignitas and this Dragon Knight is, oh man, they're going to try and focus on the kill on the KTY. Howling Blast lands into JPL. The biggest thing is opening up the map because this Task Tracer composition gets that much better whenever they get some of these structures. Normally, at this point, you'd be going, how can I get the most amount of experience possible to escalate the next Dragon Knight phase? Great Force Wall down there. Forces the Storm Bolt. Pulse Bomb. It got him. Nice job there. Dignitas, that was almost pixel perfect. And the synergy displayed, it is just unreal.
Starting the stagger deaths of CE with all of that. They'll continue that out with a Brightwing kill. And now Dignitas looking for the snowball setup. They take down one fort, they bring the Dragon Knight down and get a second Zalia, not Zalia, Sonya with Wubby in the top lane starting to do a lot of damage to the structures up there. Team Dignitas make a huge power play to get to 16.
I know, what I was saying is that I feel like Dignitas needs to open up this map, and because they've gotten so many kills, it's been very easy for them to do so. But in a world where they were unable to get that, it was still in their best interest to just focus on cycling forts and just making sure they get that damage and pressure out, because then the chase and tracking with the Task Tracer composition and the Force Wall gets exponentially better. Bit of pressure for Shuyu, needs a Pulse Bomb. Nice dodge there onto the Howling Blast. Look at Dignitas. They're just using this 3-man and just going, now we are comfortable. We have room to play, and this is what they've been waiting for so very long.
Yeah, CE, you guys want to brawl? That's fine. We have our Task Tracer Sonya, and we're ready to go with 16. CE will see if they can take their Giants. Sonya's starting to come down, but so is Leoric.
Get this full rotation. Jay's going to be the man on it. Stormbolt lands onto 2. Avatar used, look at that flank.
Expulsion Zone gives CE the camp along with Emerald Wind. Howling Blast hits. Pulse Bomb did go down. 7-sided strike doing damage, but CE moves forward into it, splitting out that damage, and they take out Kharazim.
Team Dignitas getting very greedy there with that territorial spells, but can they turn this around? Poik's about to be in hot pursuit. Look at how low those HP bars are. There's kill number 1, but no, he's not going to go that much further. Jay, he questions if it's going to be the case, but they do end up backing out. But what I was saying with the Sonya flank there from Wubby, I don't feel like it was even that the flank was the problem, but it's more the fact that Team Dignitas did not consider that you were looking at an Expulsion Zone, you were looking at an Emerald Win, and those type of chokeholds. We didn't even see March go off. If that had been the case, I mean, it very much would have been a heavily won fight for CE. Dignitas has been waiting for the map to open, but one of the few fights they were willing to force is within a choke. And that shows why they struggled into the early game, and they will still struggle into the mid game if they fall for that. But because top 4, mid 4, and bottom are non-existent anymore, it is very realistic for them to be able to avoid those. They just have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and because they took down all of those forts, even though they lost one, they retreated back, they still have the 16 advantage. They're still going to have a way better setup than CE as we head into the next Dragon Knight phase. Getting camps in multiple lanes, the top and the bottom, to push those out. Don't immediately go for the shrines, though. They have other plans in mind.
Sonya's nowhere to be found, and there's a flank there from Leoric, but he's not going to commit to it as there seems to be too many minions. At least anchoring, maybe catching a vision out of Karazim. They know that Sonya's going to be picking up this top altar. Karazim, he's got himself the Dragon Knight. Great job here from Dignitas, just zoning off.
It's too fast. CE just tried to go for the fight instead, but don't catch anybody. Team Dignitas are playing this out so well with this triple tri-lane in the bot. Stopping the Brightwing with a Storm Bolt. JPL takes that out.
Just said, nope, not in front of my team, not like this. And he's not done. Gets a Dwarf Toss onto 3, another Storm Bolt, Force Wall used, but CE should be able to get the retreat around. Paradise trying to remove all that damage as best as he can. Expulsion used to peel away. The kick is there, but the breath on the wind, is it going to get the kill? Not even necessary. Last auto attack, 3 members of CE are dead. And Gilly, I think Dignitas wants core.
Yeah, through all that time, all the focus, the Dragon focus on wind, Poik was happy to just drop a Pulse Bomb out casually, take out Zarya too, and a triple kill for Team Dignitas. Played very well. As soon as they got that Dragon Knight to open up the map, they never looked back. Dignitas go up 2-0, chasing down some more kills.
Stat pattern it up. We got to get that Tassadar MVP. I see what you're doing here, Snitch. And that looks like it is GG. Amazing play there from Team Dignitas. I wanted from both teams, actually. I cannot say how impressed I am from both sides. And with the synergy out of Dignitas, starting with that Force Wall, the Storm Bolt, and that really nice Pulse Bomb, but CE's laning, decision-making into the earlier stages, it was near flawless.
It was really, really good. It just felt like for them, it was on them to always play perfectly from that. Never really be able to lose out on the laning, and the stagger deaths that they lost were just enough that once the map opened up, it was like a whole new ball game.
I agree with you, but I will say that I think we see the exact same thought process with equal amount of wave clear, but more meta picks. You could see a team like that not have to have the game snowball out of control because they had 0 team fight capabilities. Let's be real. Outside of heavy territorial fights in those tight little chokeholds, it is unrealistic for them to win a team fight. So in that sense, I agree, but let's just say a world where a bit more meta and they're equally as fluid with their laning situations and have that big of an advantage over Dick, I think it could have been a very different game. And there's still a lot to be said with how fast Dignitas just went, this game's done. We have a 2-level lead now. It was very prepped and primed, and when the minute they gave them an opportunity, they did not let go.
Yeah, so what picks would you have liked to have seen from CE instead in that?
I mean, I'd have to revamp it to each draft phase. I think the biggest thing is just, I mean, anytime you find yourself going into a Zarya composition on Dragonshire, the tri-lane situation, and solo support Brightwing as high as it was, I mean, there were some things that were interestingly done here for CE, and just trying to abuse heavy amount of wave clear, even if every pick was just the closest thing you can get to meta, but being the most dominant within their role, it could have been different there.
Double MVP for Poik.
You know,
look at that.
I think it's unfair. He gets to play all the fun heroes. You know, he just gets to go. They also have some of the most quotable lines. I feel like we should be giving it over. You know, I'm going to give my own personal one. We're just going to toss it onto Wubby because he was off on the sideline getting experience the whole game, and nobody watched or paid attention to Wubby.
Yeah.
So Wubby, you're my MVP.
I feel like we never saw him in that game, within the camera. Very rarely was Sonya actually on the screen that game.
He showed up. It was after he got into a 1v1 of the night camp, zoned it off, and then he was like, I might want to take this fight at Giants. They see the Emerald win. Dignitas goes, we do not want this fight anymore. And then he goes, okay, I'm going to go back to my lane.
See you guys later.
See you, nerds.
See you at the end of the game. Okay, it's been fun, family. I'm going back up.
GD no read.
Team Dignitas gets the 2-0 over CE. It wasn't expected. We expected Team Dignitas to look to be the more dominant team in this match. But what does this mean for CE now? Have they run out of options?
To be honest, I personally feel like that's the case, right? You lose map number 1 on your highest preference map and not a high preference map for Team Dignitas. Team Dignitas even went through banning out the Abathur, so they weren't even willing to, you know, because like when Dig is really dominant, it's around that kind of Abathur playstyle on the map. So they win on map number 1 in pretty reasonable fashion there. Game number 2, the only overlapping map that Dig was even willing to pick into your first pick slot. And then for game number 3, it just, even though you might be able to go to something else, I personally just feel like those 2 games on those maps were enough for me to go, Dignitas has got this 3-0.
I think they'll pick Battleground Choice, CE that is.
Okay.
And then either go to Battlefield of Eternity or Braxis Holdout.
The only reason I can see them not wanting to pick BOE, even though I think it might be their best focus to do so because it has a lot of those skirmishes, would just be because Dignitas was comfortable picking that all the way in Game 5 versus Ballistics. I mean, it didn't work out for them. They ended up losing it, but they did pick it.
But it's Game 5. It's Game 5, 2 maps are banned. You're picking out of 3 maps left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's maybe something for there, but I just feel like it fits CE's playstyle really well.
Yeah, it does. I think that would be the biggest thing for me. A lot of the Chinese teams, to be honest, I'm surprised how little they prioritize the map. I mean, it can snowball and feel really, really bad to want to learn the map, but when you consider their strengths as a region, and it seems like especially with CE as a team, a map like Battlefield of Eternity, it does have some consideration of macro, but not enough to where you feel like it can be overwhelming, and that idea of baiting fights is very, very probable on that kind of map.
So we're looking at Team Dignitas